With me now is Amith Singh. He's Head of Energy Finance at Nedbank Corporate and Investment Bank. Thank you so much for joining me here, Amith, at the World Economic Forum in Davos 2022, where energy, climate finance, sustainability has taken center stage as a central theme that is being driven hard across all the conversations. And I suppose from your perspective, we have to start with the renewable energy space and how we can scale investments in the renewable energy space to create clean, sustainable energy for all African countries and meet Sustainable Development Goal 7.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to meet you on this important platform. Yeah, so energy is indeed one of the biggest tools that's required for the just energy transition and ultimate climate change. So we have to understand there's two contexts in the African continent, South Africa and the rest of Africa. The rest of Africa is still a very dark continent. Energy starvation is a big thing, this energy security. So they have a big opportunity to leapfrog into renewables, and that will definitely enhance the energy supply, the economic growth, and all the other good things, access to electricity to people. So that's a tool, and that's quite easy to do because you're starting from a very low base. You don't need to convert your thermal or your polluting generating units to renewables. With South Africa, it's a unique and different situation where we have huge carbon emitting power generation fleets, and we still need electricity. So we need to improve and catalyst the renewable sector so that it overtakes the thermal over time. So there's sufficient money in the market for this growth. We're seeing this internationally, the investors, the local investors, sufficient private sector, independent power producers that want to build power stations in the country. So we have all the recipes for a great cake or a great outcome, but it's taking longer than we wanted it to take. I think the change, this pace in which it's really being implemented can be accelerated. The finances are all available. Nedbank CIB is one of the largest finances of the renewable sector with a big market share in Africa, and including South Africa. So we are ready to put money into this to build these power stations, but we hope that government can accelerate this growth into the sector. Of course, there's lots of limitations, but that's for another story. Yeah.
And I think, Amith, we often hear, and we've certainly heard here at the World Economic Forum, that it is government's responsibility to create that enabling framework. So I suppose that's tantamount to what you are saying as well.
Yeah, 100%. In Africa, I think there's still a long way to catch. The South African REAP program, the Renewable Energy Independent Power Program, which is government's flagship program to promote and get renewable electricity on the grid, that's taken significant milestone, and it's been watched and complimented worldwide. What a great success it is. So we have the platform in South Africa, but we want to see it being rolled at a quicker pace. So we have a good regulatory framework. All the fundamentals are there, but I think the pace in which these programs are bid and the projects are awarded and how it's built, that can accelerate, and that will create much more momentum in that space. In the rest of Africa, regulation is still a huge problem. The frameworks are still underdeveloped. Most of the utilities are bankrupt. How do you get bankable power purchase agreements in that space? Those are all the questions that still has to be worked out. How can the international community, the multilateral agencies, the GFIs credit enhance the power purchase agreement, which will enable private sector to build these plants and get paid over 20, 30 years in terms of what they need to recover the capital cost of these projects.
Amith, can you elaborate on this emerging trend to grid-tied generation facilities? You're going to have to unpack that for the listeners.
100% good. Yeah, I think that's the next big theme that's evolving in the continent, and South Africa is also leading the way in that. So we know all the multilateral agencies, being the mining companies, the industrial companies, the large retail companies, they all have huge carbon reduction commitments that they've promised the world in part of the Sustainable Development Goals and the climate journey to net zero. So what they have done now, the government has created a platform where these projects can buy power from power purchase agreements, really through the utilities grid, and ultimately get the benefit of green power into the system. So that is what is happening. We call it corporate and embedded power or grid-tied power, which you mentioned there. So it's quite enabling. These projects are many corporates have launched mega projects We've seen the media on that. And Nedbank's trying to fund. We are in the process of working to financial close on many of such projects in the corporate and embedded space. So that's quite exciting. And let's remember, so, you have government trying to do their part, and now we have corporate realize that they have to accelerate it, So for them to get net neutral, they'll have to do something on their own. So they are going aggressively. It's huge, and the scale in which it is going, it's almost a pull factor. Government's pushing, and now the world is pulling it and making sure that they would deliver into this carbon. They know that government cannot do it on their own, and they have to do it, be part of this process. So these corporates are signing power purchase agreements with the independent power producers, and the banks put the money into these projects. So that's a real exciting space. And of course, we see that definitely can roll out into the rest of Africa, where such projects can work.
Now. Can we become the prototype? Can South Africa become the prototype in a grid-tied generation for the rest of Africa, which is where you're going right now?
Yes, 100%. So that's right. So, so we have in Africa, rest of Africa, we have huge corporates, mining houses, industrial companies, and they are already launched projects where they would definitely follow the same trend of buying green power for their own consumption from independent power producers. But it will happen, but I think it's going to be a bit slower. It will lag South Africa, but it's definitely moving in that direction.
Amith, one of the other discussion points has been that energy is actually at the center of everything. It is the starting point. Without energy, you are not able to industrialize. In fact, right at the basic level, you're not able to feed and warm your families. So this need for clean, sustainable energy, there is heightened focus on the importance of making sure that this becomes available to every single person. I mean, the stat is still staggering. 600 million people in Africa still don't have access to clean energy of any kind. I mean, this must be at the center of what you do on a day-to-day basis when you look at the need.
So personally, that wakes me up every morning to know that we're making a difference. With the high unemployment in the continent, South Africa, and one of the biggest things for economic growth is electricity, as you mentioned it. We always call it the oxygen of the economy. Without that, you cannot open a factory, you cannot create jobs. So we need two things. Firstly, we need energy security, a reliable supply, but also we want it at the right price. To be competitive in international manufacturing, electricity is a big input cost. So you really need to get the power at the right size. And that's where renewables is the way to go, because it is one of the least cost producers. It's the quickest to come online. To develop a project, you can develop a PV project between 12 months, a wind project around 18 to 24 months. So it's quick to get the power online. So we definitely need the power. It's the oxygen of the economy. But the other important point you make is the access to energy for the normal African that's living where, you still need to charge your mobile phone, get your fridge, your TV, internet. Eventually, of course, cooking, you need some form of electricity or energy for cooking. In the continent, we still see fossil fuel wood being a big source of cooking energy or source of heat for electricity for cooking, and that's still really not should. We're in the 21st century. We should move on now. So on that side, for access to energy, there are different models where we see where you get microgrids, a small community being tied up, getting your own grid, prepaid systems. There are definitely models that can work. But I think the investment in that side is far much lagging than the investment into corporates. So that will definitely need lots of impetus and thought leadership and support from the international community to push that agenda. So currently the real focus is on the big corporate power, and the access to electricity would definitely need more attention in the future. So, we are very excited at Nedbank CIB. We have a dedicated team focused only on the energy side. That's what we do. We develop structured projects so that we can deliver this clean and the just energy transition for the continent. Thank you, and all the best for the rest of the Davos.
Amith Singh is Head of Energy Finance at Nedbank Corporate Investment Bank, joining us here at Davos 2022 at the World Economic Forum.